So, this linguistics professor is about to discover that her nightmares have become real this whole time. And the ancient creatures hunting her have been waiting 28 years for her to come home. Let me tell you about Dr. Ayo Ogundipe. This woman has spent her entire adult life running from Idonre, the town where she was born. She is 35 years old now, teaching ancient Yoruba dialects at the University of Ibadan. And she's made herself this quiet little life surrounded by dusty books, old recordings of village elders speaking forgotten languages. But here's the thing about Ayo that makes her story so twisted. Every single night, she has these nightmares about massive stone formations, bleeding dark liquid, and she hears voices whispering in a language that sounds familiar, but she can never quite understand when she wakes up. Now, Ayo hasn't been back to Idonre since she was 7 years old. Her parents packed up and moved to Lagos right after her grandmother died under mysterious circumstances. And for 28 years, she told herself she's better off never going back there. But then one Tuesday morning, her phone rings and then everything changes. The caller is Dr. Ogo, this archaeologist she knows from the university, who's been leading an expedition to document cave paintings in the sacred Idonre Hills. And Ugo sounds absolutely panicked on the phone. So apparently 3 days ago, Ugo's team accidentally breached a sealed chamber inside these ancient caves. And the moment they did, the massive granite rocks outside started whipping this dark substance that looks exactly like blood. The local villagers are fleeing because they've spotted these impossible creatures emerging from the rocks at sunset. Beings that are part human and part animal, with twisted limbs and features that should not exist at all in nature. Inside that chamber, Ugo's team discovered strange symbols carved into the walls that seem to shift and change when you look directly at them. Nobody can translate them. That is why he's calling Ayo, practically begging her to come help before the government seals the site permanently. And Ayo is standing in her small Ibadan apartment, feeling like her world is crashing down. Because returning to Idonre means confronting all those traumatic memories she spent nearly 3 decades trying to suppress. But here is what nobody knows yet, including Ayo herself. Her grandmother, Makinde, was actually the last keeper of the threshold, an ancient hereditary role that her family has held for over 400 years. The keeper maintains a mystical pact that keeps vengeful entities bound within the rocks. When Makinde died without properly passing on her knowledge to Ayo, that ancient covenant started weakening. And now, when Ugo's team breached that sealed chamber, they have completely severed the mystical barrier that Ayo's ancestors have been maintaining for centuries. These hybrid creatures that are coming out from the bleeding rocks are actually the transformed spirits of people who broke ancient taboo throughout history, trapped between worlds as punishment. And they are driven by centuries of rage and vengeance. And you see that Ayo's nightmares, they have not been anxiety at all. They have been the creatures calling to her, trying to draw her back to Idonre because her bloodline is the only thing that can renew the failing covenant and bind them back into the stone. So here's what actually happens when Ayo finally makes it back to Idonre. She drives there in complete silence, and when she sees those massive granite formations rising up against the sunset, she has to pull over because she's shaking so badly. Those rocks are bleeding, just like Ugo said. Thick, dark substance oozing down the stone faces. Ugo meets her at the base camp, looking like he hasn't slept in days. And the whispers from her nightmares are suddenly crystal clear. They are calling her full spiritual name that she did not know she had. Ayo Omowale Kehinde, daughter of daughters, blood of the threshold. That first night, she enters the cave with Ugo and his researchers. And the moment Ayo steps into that sealed chamber, the shifting symbols on the walls suddenly freeze into clarity. She can read them perfectly, and what they say makes her blood run cold. The covenant isn't about just binding the creatures, it's about feeding them. Every keeper has to willingly offer their humanity piece by piece to satisfy the hunger of the transformed spirits. Her grandmother had been doing this for 60 years, slowly becoming more spirit than woman, until she finally dissolved into the stone itself. That is what Ayo saw as a 7-year-old child, not her mother, Not her grandmother dying of natural causes, but Mama Kehinde stepping into the rock face and becoming part of the threshold forever. Now it is Ayo's turn. That second night, one of the creatures comes to her tent, but this one doesn't attack. It speaks to her in that ancient dialect she has spent her whole career studying, and it tells her the truth that the symbols didn't reveal. There is another option, a way to break the cycle entirely. The original taboos that transformed these people into monsters, most of them were not real crimes. They were things like falling in love with somebody from a forbidden clan or questioning corrupt leaders. The ancient priests used this system to maintain power, trapping innocent people between worlds and forcing one family line to maintain their prison forever. The creature tells Ayo that she can use her position as keeper not to renew the covenant, but to shatter it completely. She can speak the words of release and set all the trapped spirits free. But doing this will unleash absolute chaos for weeks, maybe even months. And then, of course, thousands of people will die. But after the chaos ends, the cycle will be forever broken. No more keepers, no more children traumatized by supernatural bodies they did not ask for. No more spirits tortured for crimes they didn't deserve. So Ayo is now standing in that cave at dawn on the third day, and she has to make a choice that will define everything. And here's what she does. She speaks the words of release. The rocks stop bleeding. Every creature trapped in the stone comes screaming out at once. Dozens of them, maybe even hundreds. Ugo is yelling at her, asking what she has done. Ayo just stands there with tears streaming down her face as she watches the chaos that she has unleashed. For 47 days, southwestern Nigeria experiences what the media calls the Idonre accident. Unexplained attacks, mass hysteria, people die, communities are devastated. But Ayo doesn't run this time. She stays in Idonre and uses her knowledge of the ancient language to communicate with the spirits who are willing to listen. It helps some of them find peace. She warns villages when the violent ones are approaching, and slowly the attacks decrease. The creatures either fade away as their rage exhausts itself, or they learn to coexist peacefully in the shadows of the world. By the time it's over, Ayo has changed. Not into some half-spirit monster like her grandmother, but into someone who chose to break a cycle of trauma and control, even knowing the terrible cost. Ugo never quite forgives her, but he understands why she did it. And Ayo, she moves back to Idonre permanently, opens a small school where she teaches the ancient dialects to anyone who wants to learn. Some nights she still dreams about the rocks, but now when the whispers come, they are thanking her for setting them free. That's the thing about breaking cycles of trauma. It's never clean. It's never easy. People get hurt, but sometimes burning something down completely is the only way to build something better from the ashes. And Dr. Ayo Ogundipe sleeps a little better, knowing she chose liberation over perpetuation, even though liberation came with blood on her hands. That is how the story ends, with a choice that couldn't be undone, and a woman learning to live with the consequences of finally refusing to run.